If you run a small business, you have probably got one of these sitting on your computer right now. A spreadsheet that started out tidy and slowly turned into a mess. Customer names spelled three different ways, dates in two or three formats, a handful of duplicate rows nobody ever noticed, and a couple of extra tabs someone added months ago and never explained. You know there is useful information buried in there, but cleaning it up and pulling out a proper summary by hand would eat half a day you simply do not have. Today I want to show you how AI can turn that messy file into a clean, plain English report. And I want to be honest with you from the very start. This is practical education, not a magic trick. You stay in control the whole way through. You review what the AI gives you, and you check the numbers yourself, because getting the data right matters far more than getting it fast. The spreadsheet everyone dreads. Let us start with the file itself, because you know exactly the one I mean. Maybe it is a list of customers, or last quarter's orders, or a tracker your team has been dumping things into for a year. The problem is never that the data is missing. The problem is that it is inconsistent. One person typed the company name one way, another typed it a different way, a third just left it off. Some dates are day first, some are month first. There are three rows for the same client because they got entered on three different days. And the totals at the bottom stopped being trustworthy a long time ago. Picture the real thing for a second. One column is supposed to be the order amount, but a few cells have the currency symbol typed straight in, and a few have a stray space in front of the number, so the sum at the bottom quietly ignores them and reads low. One tab is called Sheet 3, and nobody remembers what it feeds. A single client shows up as AppMe, then AppMe Liberty, then ACME readmitted on three different rows, so any count you run is already off before you begin. Stacked together across a few hundred rows, these small inconsistencies are exactly why the file stopped being something you could trust. Cleaning this by hand is not hard work exactly. It is just slow, fiddly, and easy to get wrong when your eyes glaze over somewhere around row 200. That is the job we are going to hand off. The prompt and paste loop. Here is how most people try to use AI on a file like this today. This is level 0. You open an AI in a browser tab. You copy a little slice of the spreadsheet, maybe 20 or 30 rows, and you paste it into the chat box. You ask it to tidy that up or summarize it, and it does a decent job on that little slice. But then you are stuck, because the AI never saw the actual file. It did not see the other tabs. It did not see the 800 rows you did not paste. So you copy another chunk, and another, and you try to stitch the answers back together by hand in your own spreadsheet. You have become a copy machine again, shuttling bits of data back and forth. And every paste is a fresh chance to grab the wrong column or drop a row. It works for a tiny sample. It falls apart on a real file. What level 1 looks like. Level 1 is a different thing entirely. Instead of copying slices into a checkbox, you put the AI directly onto your own computer where it can open the actual spreadsheet file. Now it can see every tab, every row, every column all at once. You do not paste anything. You point it at the file and describe the job in plain words. You might say, this spreadsheet is a mess. Please standardize the company names and the date formats, remove the duplicate rows, tell me which ones you merged, and then give me a clean summary of orders by month. And it goes and works on the real file, not a description of it. What comes back is not a wall of chat text you then have to reassemble. It is actual finished work, a clean table and a written summary, sitting on your machine ready for you to check. That is the whole jump in one sentence. The AI stops being on the far side of a wall and comes into the room with your real file. What actually happens to the file? So what does it actually do once it is working on the file? A few things in order. First, it standardizes, so all those variations of a company name become one consistent version, and the dates all get put in a single format. Second, it finds and removes the duplicates, and if you ask it to, it tells you exactly which rows it treated as duplicates, so you can see its reasoning. Third, it categorizes, sorting your rows into sensible groups, by product, by month, by region, whatever you need. Fourth, it looks for patterns and tells you in plain English what it sees, such as sales dipping in the middle of the quarter, or one client making up a third of your orders. To make that concrete, imagine the summary comes back and tells you March orders were nearly double February's, but then adds that almost all of that jump came from just 2 large customers, rather than broad growth across the board. That is the kind of thing you would never catch scrolling the raw rows, and it is exactly the sort of insight that changes what you decide to do next. And finally, it produces the output you actually wanted. Either a clean, chart-ready table you can drop straight into a report, or a short written summary a busy person can read in a minute. Hours of tedious work done in the time it takes to make a coffee. What this is worth to you. Let me put the value in plain terms, without overselling it. The obvious win is time. A cleanup and summary like this might take you or a staff member the better part of a day. The AI does the first pass in minutes and you spend your time reviewing instead of grinding. The second win is fewer errors, because a person copying and retyping hundreds of rows will always slip somewhere, whereas the AI applies the same rule consistently across the whole file. And the third is cost, framed honestly. If you were to pay a bookkeeper or an analyst to clean and summarize a file like this, you might be looking at somewhere around $500 to $1,000 for the job, depending on its size. Doing that first pass with AI is on the order of 90% cheaper. I am not going to tell you it is basically free, because your own time reviewing it is real and it counts. But comparatively, the saving is large, and it repeats every single time you have a file like this. The check you must never skip. Now the most important part of this whole video, and the part 1 will not let you skip. You must review and check the numbers yourself. AI can make mistakes. It can misread a messy cell. It can merge 2 rows that were not actually duplicates. It can put something in the wrong category. Or it can quietly misunderstand what a column meant. Most of the time it is right, but most of the time is not good enough when it is your data going into a decision. So you treat its output exactly like work handed in by a capable but new staff member. You spot check, pick a few totals and check them against the original file. Look at anything that surprises you and ask where the number came from. Scan the rows it said it merged. If the figures do not tie back to the source, you do not ship them. This one habit is the difference between AI saving you time and AI quietly creating an expensive mistake. Never hand its numbers on without checking them first. A simple way to start. If you want to try this, keep the first run small and safe. Start by making a copy of your spreadsheet and work on the copy, never the original, so there is nothing to lose. Pick one file you know reasonably well so you can tell straight away if the output looks wrong. Then give the AI a clear, specific instruction. Not just clean this up, but exactly what you want done and what the final result should look like. Let it do the work, then sit down and review it properly against the copy you kept. Check the totals, read the summary, and question anything odd. Once you have done that once and seen that it holds up, you will trust the process for the right reasons, because you checked it, not because I told you to. One more practical tip worth building in from the very start. Save the exact instruction you gave it in a note somewhere, word for word. The first time round, getting that wording right is most of the work. And once you have a version that produced a clean result you are happy with, you can reuse it on next month's file by changing almost nothing. Over time, you build up a small handful of these tested instructions, and the whole job quietly turns from a project into a 2-minute routine. And the second file takes a fraction of the effort of the first. The honest limits, let me be straight about where this does not work perfectly. If the source data is genuinely ambiguous, the AI has to make a judgment call, and it might guess differently than you would. It cannot know a fact that is not in the file or that you have not told it. On a very large or very unusual file, it can lose track of a detail, which is another reason you check. And it is only as clear as your instructions, so a vague request gets you a vague result. None of this makes it unreliable. It makes it a tool, one that does the heavy lifting brilliantly and still needs a human to own the final call. That is not a weakness to work around. That is simply how you use it properly. Quick recap. So, quickly. Level 0 is pasting a slice of your spreadsheet into a chat box and stitching the answers together by hand. Level 1 is the AI working directly on the real file, cleaning it, standardizing it, categorizing it, and handing you a summary or a chart-ready table in minutes. The value is real, with hours saved, fewer errors, and comparatively a large cost saving. But the rule that never bends is this. You review the output, and you check the numbers against the source every time because you own the result. If you want to make this jump yourself, we built a free step-by-step course that walks you from level 0 to level 1 in plain language with no jargon. It shows you how to get the AI onto your own computer and run your first real project on your own files, exactly like the spreadsheet cleanup we just talked through. You do not need to be technical to follow it. Head to aifirstasia.com/level1 to take it. And if you want more of this honest, practical AI for SME owners, no hype, just workflows that hold up in a real business, then subscribe. Do the setup once, run it on one messy file of your own, and check the results for yourself. That is the whole step, and it is a small one. Go take it.